So moving to the last chapter here, question to Paul, and I ask a couple of those same questions to the other people as well. I was asking Cindy the question, like, what has been the most valuable lessons learned about resourcefulness? Another way to phrase it, what has been your biggest aha moment during this crisis? Any words on that, Paul?
Yeah, I really like what Cindy said. I mean, I think the nurturing part of it is super important. And as you may know, both Facebook and Google, I think last week, said they will have the bulk of their staff working from home until the end of the calendar year. That's a real change. My specialist is in the neuroscience of human connection, and how do we connect if we're just using, video conferencing? We're not seeing other people. Yeah. So, what we really did is pivot into that. So it's say, what our platform measures is what people love, what gives them energy, what motivates them to put in discretionary effort or to purchase or share. So we really adapted that technology, as you mentioned on the top, Ton, to helping employees at work. So again, using our software platform and their existing wearable, we can help their supervisors and their team members understand how effectively they're able to work, what they're working on, and particularly we added a new feature measuring, I think for the first time, psychological safety physiologically. Many people know that Google made psychological safety on self-report really popular about 10 years ago as the best predictor of team performance. What we did was create a physiologic measure of that, so you can actually see how psychologically safe your team is second by second. And I think it's really important to get that feedback, which is, I have a team member who, because we're adults and we're, reasonably healthy psychologically, is generally not going to say to my supervisor, hey, Ton, I'm really struggling because my wife's been laid off and blah, blah, blah. You're just going to try to power through it. But if I had that insight, that kind of, intelligence about this individual, then I can actually be a much more effective manager. I can be a much more effective team member. And so this feature that we built, probably 8 months ago, and kind of had it sitting on the shelf, just as Cindy said, we realized that this was actually very important. So we brought that front and center into our platform, made it much more prominent, and then began to discuss that with clients and potential clients. And they all said, oh yeah, we've just realized that this is a different world, and this world is, at least for the time being, not going to be changing anytime soon. So how do I manage a team now in which, as everyone said, we need people to take risks. We need them to feel like they're being supported by their team members. But at the same time, I can't stop by your desk or do a daily huddle with you, at least not in person. So one thing we've seen our clients do is really increase the frequency of kind of daily huddles. So we're seeing twice a day. I'm a big believer in the standing huddle when we were in the office. I love the 5-minute standing huddle. I think it's very efficient. But we're seeing clients now do that for a little longer, 20, 25 minutes in the morning, and another 20, 25 midday. So really doing that check-in, spending some more time on that. Obviously, if you're using our technology, you're going to get insights into how effectively those individuals are able to work together as a team. When you need to sit down and say, hey, you know what? I've just looked at your data and looks like you're struggling a little bit. So let's take a breath. Are we giving you too much work? Do you need to take a break today? So it really gives us that insight into particularly people's emotional states that are, can be read. If you're in person, I can probably read that moderately effectively, but remotely super hard, even with video conferencing. So I think it's really managing the humans, and I think all of us have created technology that help us manage those humans, because we're just not great at it. As much as we're highly social creatures, we are not experts at all the people around us who, we may or may not know that well.
Well, I mean, I didn't even realize how big this, your invention at the end could be in situations like this. So this is also maybe a blessing in disguise. And for people that want to understand a little bit deeper in terms of what Paul is doing, just check out his TED Talk. That's fascinating in itself. So a question to Patrik. One about mindset. Paul already highlighted, I think, on this as well. What did you learn about mindset during this crisis?
Great question. I think what has surprised me the most is how laser focused everybody became. So first you had this initial like, oh shit, what's going to happen now, right? With China closing down, then we saw Europe closing down sort of a bit later, and then you could do the math and understand that it was a matter of time before US closed down as well, right? And and especially within our company, which is it's all about global trade. When you close the world manufacturing hub in China, you early on understand that you're running into some shit, right? So you spend a bit of time to worry and sort of adjust a little bit, right? But what surprised me after that is how focused we all became. And all of this, we managed to do it while sitting remote. We took out like 20% cost in a very short amount of time. Also, when you've been growing a business for a long time, you've also sort of amassed a lot of fat. So it was sick to see how much we could carve out without us being hurt, which is also something, you know, in retrospective, I hope we never go back. And I believe this is also the case for many of the large businesses that I've spoken with, executives and of the companies that's our customers, where they say, you know, we carved out so much cost and this is simply not ever coming back. Which, you know, I don't want to go on and predict stuff, but it's going to be interesting to see how that comes, what consequence comes from that later on. But I would like to sort of say that the key thing is how the organization came together to tackle this challenge and being laser sharp on what really mattered now, from, you know, taking out costs to building a new product to pushing the product to retain as many customers as possible and to create the playbooks that we very quickly put in place to define how we would deal with customer scenarios 1, 2, 3, and 4, because you gotta be aware that we had some of the biggest brands in the world reaching out to us and said, we're not going to pay the bill. We understand we're legally obliged to live by the contract, but we're not doing it. We're either, you know, just simply flat on refusing, or we're filing for Chapter 11. There's been these business behaviors that we've seen from some of these big corporates, and these are public as well. So you don't even need to take my word for it. If you look at what H&M, Adidas, Puma, a few of the ones announced in Germany, where they said we will refuse to pay rent for our stores. That type of behavior is unprecedented. I've never seen that in my entire professional career, and all of a sudden they were knocking on our door, and we're a midget relative to these companies, right? And we're really depending on the revenue. So how to play all of this from a home office environment, it was so inspiring to see how everybody came together to solve that challenge.
Yeah, inspiring indeed is the right word. Well, yeah, what can I say? I mean, where do you? Yeah, no. Let me switch the question because we're heading towards the top of the hour.
Yeah.
Mindset. Cindy, what did you learn about mindset?
What did I learn about mindset? I think it's, I probably should throw this back to Malay. He's probably one of their most reflective leaders, not only mentally, but also spiritually. I would say, number one, I've been really reading a lot more about mindfulness. That might be the curiosity in me, because most of our, you know, larger accounts, they see the CEOs and the executives see that as one of the most important challenges to manage. What they're predicting will be higher levels of anxiety, higher levels of maybe more depression. You know, if we have wave 2, we underestimate, or wave 3. So, you know, I think what I'm trying to do is really reflect myself pretty deeply, and then bring it back to the leadership team, because we're still small and emerging. We're very much in the, you know, got product, key clients, and, you know, privately held, and are moving into scale up mode. But I think the answers in the mindfulness are in the context of the leaders that we need to ensure are motivated to build out the future. and really listen really hard to what they need. So, you know, I think this aspect of reflection and, you know, maybe even giving more space is probably nothing else we're going to have to do. I'm a pretty driven type A personality, maybe a bit of a workaholic in the sense I kind of work a lot, but I try and find space every day where I go for a long walk for an hour and a half, like early in the morning. And I must admit, if I don't do that, I'm probably not as effective, and I've been pretty vigilant in maintaining that. But I do worry about some of my team where I can see, you know, some of the senior engineers in particular, they're quite comfortable hiding behind their desk. And, you know, I think what, Paul, you were doing is very breakthrough, because we all know that, you know, people get backaches and any kind of physiological aspect you can detect, right? So I think it's going to be really intriguing in the sense of the new approaches that we're all going to have to build out. I don't think, you know, we're going to return to the new normal. You know, we're seeing commercial real estate here already under rapid transformation. We're predicting even more fallout as people like companies like OpenText, which are fairly large here, are reducing their commercial real estate by over 50%, and it won't go back, right? So, you know, I think that the whole aspect of being mindful is really rooted in authenticity, and you know, taking sort of the whole, you know, really appreciating what is unique about humans. You know, one of the things that we've not mastered at all in the whole robotics and AI field is the art of creativity, and what humans are really, really strong at that, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's an interesting one, how that evolves as well. But that's for a different time and different episode of this panel. The last question to Dagmar, and that's dear to my heart always, is this fantastic word of being remarkable. What do you believe we need to do different in order to be remarkable in the new situation? What advice would you give to others to put their bets?
I think what really makes a difference is not only concepting but really trying. There's a lot of things that people always talk about, but sometimes they rather wait on somebody else is trying it, or they think it's too risky. I think one of the things that this type of pandemic or anything teaches us here now is to just be curious and try out things and accept if they are not working completely flawlessly in the first hand. And even if you're a small startup, even if you're not backed up with a lot of VC money, try to basically not always be perfect, but try to get a solution done and out and try to take it from there in order to be fruitful, and in order to see it as a positive possibility to do things differently that might not have been the opportunity before. And I think it's always a very good thing to embrace change rather than trying to prevent it. And it comes with even if the organization has to act differently, like we had the same issue with having to move completely into the home office, and seeing also that there are some people who need more social tangibility than others. Some work well from home, some don't. And try to find out new ways and not always say, oh my God, this is horrible that I have to find this new way, but liking that you have to find this new way. It makes you feel differently, and it gives you chances that you might try out things that you've never had the opportunity to try before because you were stuck in your typical process. And so this is something that I would really give as an advice. Don't be stuck in your process, otherwise you can't get better. And even if you fail once, well, then you fail once. It's not that tragic if you are curious enough to see what you have done wrong and that you try to make it better.
Wise words, and I think that's a nice wrap up for this session. A couple of key takeaways and a call to action. I'm not sure about you, but I've learned a great deal of things today. Thanks for all your contributions here. I mean, I made a couple of notes in the beginning about curiosity and the courage to keep your eyes open and to ask the right questions. And what Patrik said, be a bit naive. That's a very good one. Second thing I highlighted here is focus, customer focus, keep them in mind all the time, because at the end you need to retain them in good times, but also in bad times. And it's all about how the impact you make for them. What I really liked and want to highlight from you, Dagmar, is the design for resourcefulness. Really think this through with your organization, so that no matter what happens, you can always pivot and shift gears when the opportunity is there. These are just 3. I want to keep it short because we're already on the top of the hour here. But I want to thank everybody for their contribution. Patrik, thank you very much. Cindy, Dagmar, Paul, and I want to hand it over to Malay for the final words.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And I believe nothing much remains to be said. That was an excellent discussion and a great way to conclude what has been an absolutely exciting webinar series so far. And I'd like to thank you, Don, for facilitating these discussions and getting the most out of our experts who have featured in at different times. For our audience, thank you so much for joining us here. I would like to point out our AI Predictive World Forum, on which you can visit at saleschoice.com/resources. And it's a platform where you will find tons of material that will guide you deeper into the world of AI, sales, thought leadership, mindfulness, in fact, through webinars, podcasts, white papers, and blogs. And of course, more and more will keep coming up as we continually host experts in different fields to give us some of their experiences that everyone can benefit from. I would also like to quickly thank our sponsors and supporters, Value Inspiration, of course, but also CATA, which is the Canadian Advanced Technology Alliance, IT World Canada, which is Canada's largest publishing house for technology, and the Bedford Consulting Group /Transearch. It's been an inspiring journey, and we do hope that each of us manages to survive in this era and thrive in ways that we could have never imagined. So once again, thank you, everyone. Stay safe and have a wonderful rest of the week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.